President Ibrahim Traore's clinical moves have managed to make those who thought that his leadership wouldn't thrive for long to taste the thread of a sword that can shear a sheep's wool within microseconds. President Ibrahim Traore has been battling not one, not two, but a collection of groups of destabilizers who have tried copious ways to remove someone who had become a tiny stone, causing discomfort in a big shoe. Moving slow but calculated, while observing every move of destabilizers, President Ibrahim Traore has simultaneously been instant like a lion or a chameleon, which has been all along observing its prey, waiting for the right time to snatch it. The vast network of destabilizers, including previously removed leaders from power, numerous militant groups who had been the focal point of stubbornness in Burkina Faso, plus the West that President Ibrahim Traore has always come out openly to accuse of practicing chameleon-like nature in a fight against insurgency, seemed like the captain was climbing an infinite ladder. If you had been told to answer, if President Ibrahim Traore would manage to reach this far while managing the immense transformation going on in Burkina Faso, what would have been your reply? If your reply was, according to the disorganized political situation, including rapid military coups, there is no way a young man of lower military ranks would manage to overcome those immense challenges, you would have been totally wrong. This is why many are still wondering how President Ibrahim Traore has managed to make it through a tunnel full of intense blocks. In this dialogue, we are pointing out the smartest moves President Ibrahim Traore has used to set one of the strongest walls, which has set a gigantic barrier against destabilizers, wishing to set their dancing stage of destabilization in this beautiful Sahel country of West Africa. Everything starting with propaganda after rise into power through a military coup in September 2022, and all of a sudden shocking Western powers with their dismissal by not only President Ibrahim Traore, but also members of the Alliance of Sahel states, including Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso itself. President Ibrahim Traore knew that Western media would spread propaganda about what was happening in Burkina Faso. President Ibrahim Traore suspended several international news organizations for their coverage of a Human Rights Watch report that accused the army of killing civilians in its battle against Islamist armed groups. These included DW, TV5 Monde, and Le Monde, both French media, as well as UK outlet, The Guardian. The move followed a temporary suspension of the BBC and US broadcaster Voice of America. Since Burkina Faso's military leadership seized power in a coup in September 2022, the second that year, it suspended numerous media houses, including France 24, Radio France International, and Jeune Afrique. It also expelled 2 French journalists in April 2023, and no foreign journalists remained in the West African nation. Someone may ask, why President Ibrahim Traore had to do such another bold decision after previously dismissing Western troops? Did he want to hide his actions from the rest of the world? President Ibrahim Traore knew that misinformation and fake news had the potential to polarize public opinion, to promote violent extremism and hate speech, and ultimately to undermine democracies and reduce trust in the democratic processes he had for Burkina Faso. This move created room for President Ibrahim Traore to display his respective moves to a large number of people who believed in his process of transformation of every corner of Burkina Faso. It is just the beginning. Let's roll the wheel fast and show you the bearing that allowed for smooth operation and preventing wear and tear on the captain by Western sanctions, minimizing direct contact between Burkina Faso and sanctions, essentially facilitating movement while maintaining proper execution and transformation within Burkina Faso. As nations jockey for geopolitical influence, Russia, which the West has always accused of aggressively interfering in other states around the globe to exert its influence, has managed to win hearts of a number of nations in Africa, looking beyond its borders to Africa Asia, Europe, and Latin America, Russia seeks to influence global and regional policy through arms sales and the use of private military contractors. These moves by Moscow, plus being direct opposer of the West, have created a space for Russia's continued access and partnering with a number of African countries. The geopolitical format of Russia and its allies, such as China, North Korea, among others, is the one that prompted President Ibrahim Traore to announce them as new allies, leaving aside the West. African governments have increasingly welcomed economic, diplomatic, and security ties with Russia, leading Western countries to denounce what they see as Moscow's destabilizing influence and seek their own, more equal partnerships. Russian influence has been gaining ground across Africa in recent years, placing the continent at the crux of the growing geopolitical contest between the Kremlin and the White House. Due to a long-standing frustration with the failures of Western intervention and to many African countries' simmering resentment over a lack of representation in international institutions, bold leaders such as, for this case, President Ibrahim Traore, have strongly chosen Moscow over the West. Russia mostly focuses on weapons trade. Even though it may be looked at as seeking to expand its operational footprint, including by signing agreements for new military bases, access to vast resources in various African countries, its African allies, such as Burkina Faso under President Traore, look at this as a win-win situation. Official relations between the Kremlin and African counterparts are modest, but growing. In addition to seeking military bases, Moscow has inked military cooperation agreements with at least 19 African countries since 2014. These generally involve supplying arms and equipment, with some military training, intelligence sharing, and other cooperation. This is what leaders, such as for this case, President Ibrahim Traore, in dire need, unlike the West, that had an extent to the military supplies to African countries. Russia's spreading influence in Africa has raised alarm in some outside countries, while others are eyeing the potential benefits. Many experts see China, generally agnostic on the internal politics of its partners, as unlikely to play a role in constraining Russia. The two countries share a desire to edge out the West, allowing for their coexistence on the continent, and Russia's dependence on China has only grown amid Western sanctions. Like Russia, China is available to supply the necessary military equipment to their African allies, a thing which African countries have been craving for due to unending conflicts on the continent, mostly geared by insurgent groups. President Ibrahim Traore has benefited much from military equipment supplies from China and Turkey, hence a relief for Burkina Faso, which had previously been immensely disorganized by various militant groups. President Ibrahim Traore has himself faced several coup attempts from within the military since he took over power more than 2 years ago. With some of these coup attempts being due to the fact that his rise into power was based on removal of fellow military man, it was clear that he wasn't going to receive a full welcome by Burkinabe army at large. No matter what the incumbent leader wishes for the nation, like for this case, President Ibrahim Traore, who has come out with a goal of Burkina Faso's full sovereignty, the issue of coup attempts on such leaders has been prevailing due to various interests which broadly involve geopolitics. No matter what the West and Russia and its allies may wish for Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim Traore has stood firm for his beloved Burkina Faso.